This is a lot of stuff. We got, like last week, 4 things I want to cover on this weekly preview show, so we really don't have time to mess around. We have the sit-start guide for the week. We have the weekly schedule analysis, and then we have our Monday and Tuesday streaming grid. And I don't know how long it's going to take. So we're going to talk fast. We're going to take a few breaks, and we're going to tell you right at the outset to please subscribe to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Really want to try to see if we can't collect just a few more before the season ends. And then, I do shows all off season long, but at that point, we're just trying to make sure we don't bleed subscribers. Sad times are these, but the season's winding out, and we do what we got to do. So here we go. Here's the weekly sit-start guide. We'll start at the top. Nikola Jokic already ruled out for tonight. The good news is that, there is no good news. There's absolutely no good news whatsoever. Nuggets play on Wednesday and on Friday. I guess if you wanted to try to turn this into good news, you could. The report out of Nuggets camp is that they're hoping to have him back on their 5-game homestand. But, of course, the last 2 games of the homestand are next Tuesday and Wednesday. It's a slow, plodding homestand. It ain't 5 games in 8 days is what I'm saying. It's 5 games over 10 days. But at the same time, this is freaking Nikola Jokic. How do you bench Nikola Jokic? You almost have to play him because your team was probably built on his shoulders anyway. Who are you going to drop in there that's going to do what he does? Your team's build is completely you-know-whatted without him in there. So you kind of have to just play him and hope that he plays. Meanwhile, Anthony Davis, who's been out for weeks, is apparently coming back tonight. We'll see, I guess. Dallas has a 4-game week, including a Monday, Tuesday back-to-back to start the week. There's no way that AD plays in both halves of the back-to-back. So even if he misses today, one would assume he's back by tomorrow. I think you're getting 2 to 3 games out of Anthony Davis this week, which means he's probably a play. And if he's in, then you don't even have to really think about it. Damian Lillard already ruled out for the Bucks game tonight. They have a 4-game week. That one's a tough one, man. You're sitting on the razor's edge because he's already missed a couple. Initially, we thought maybe it was a rest game against the Lakers, but then he was off against Sacramento, and now he's ruled out against Phoenix pretty early, too. So it kind of makes you think that he's still a game or 2 out. That's a really hard call because Dame is also a first-rounder. So how do you just take a first-rounder out when they've got a 4-game week? And, what if he's back by Friday, Sunday? So, if I had to make the call, I'd probably sit him because, look, Dame has been very, very good. But with someone like Nikola Jokic, losing him completely upends your team build. With Dame, I'm assuming he's probably part of a team that you like to win free throws and threes and scoring and stuff like that, and you can kind of stream that to catch it up a little bit in a way that with what Jokic does, you just can't. So I probably lean towards sitting Dame, but I also get it if you want to start him and just hope he plays in the last 2 games of the week. Maxey, no way. Kyrie's out for the year. Steph Curry, I'm probably playing, if only because I think, went through a lot of their workout. Even if he doesn't play tomorrow in Miami, he's probably back by New Orleans on Friday. So it kind of feels like you're getting a 2-game week out of Steph at minimum. Maybe that's the same story as Dame. So I lean with Steph ever so slightly to the yes side because it sounds like he's practicing and that he's getting closer. Porzingis is just getting a day off. You don't have to worry too much about that. Boston only a 3-game week, though, so it's possible that he sits the front end of, no, okay, yeah, you're good there. Let's go with Porzingis. He'll be, he got yesterday off. He's playing today, so you might even get 3 games out of him. That's pretty good. LeBron is in. Jalen Williams, you got to leave on your bench until he plays. Anthony Edwards is questionable with a finger laceration. Let's hope he plays tonight, so we'll get a better idea of what's up. They do not play after tonight until Friday. That's a crappy decision to have to make. But again, you're probably leaning ever so slightly towards yes, because it'd be surprising to have him questionable today and not play by Friday. James Harden is a somewhat of a similar situation. Clippers have a bad schedule to start the week. He's questionable, and we're not going to get any information on him for probably 2 days. And then you just kind of have to hope. But I think we're probably going to get 2 games out of James, I would assume. I don't know, but I'm leaning, again, ever so slightly to yes. Domantas Sabonis sounds like he's actually closer than expected. He was supposed to be out for 10 days 5 days ago, but he's already questionable because the Kings are Well, frankly, up against it a little bit. And they've got a Boston OKC back-to-back. And so now they're looking at it like, well, if he doesn't play, we're going to lose both of those guaranteed. This feels like they're pushing it. Those teams are going to run Sabonis right off the floor if he's not at full strength. But we might get him in there. So let's play a little Mirror Monday, perhaps. He was supposed to, again, miss basically this entire week. But, maybe he doesn't. If he plays today, you obviously start him. If he doesn't play today, I think I would probably leave him on my bench. Let's get to the next group of guys. But first, it's March Madness, everybody. You guys know what I'm about to tell you about. I'm about to tell you about our buddies at Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform. Isn't that what you want in your betting platform? Is trust, reliability, fairness? None of that nonsense. God, remember how sleazy it all used to be? It's not that way anymore. It's easy now. And Bet Online makes it simple. That's why they're your number one source for betting on all the madness. I don't care if you're just getting started or if you've been doing this a long time. Bet Online is the ultimate game day companion because they've got the largest selection of odds. They've got stats. They've got ways of watching games. They've got in-game action. They've got props. This is like they're covering the full gamut here. And I don't know if you got down on it last week, but they had a $200,000 bracket contest for March Madness running. I hope you did. Might be too late now, but whatever. You can still bet on the games. Let's have some fun. Let's make March Madness just a little bit more interesting. Within reason, over at Bet Online. The game starts here. Let's keep plowing through this thing. We'll move faster as we get to the less important players. Cade Cunningham missed Detroit's last ball game with some calf soreness. They do not play today, and they have a very light schedule at the beginning of the week. So this is another tough call. I would lean towards benching unless we get some sort of good news later on today. Because calf stuff is weird, and Detroit is pretty locked into that 6 spot. So they don't really have a reason to push him too hard. Chet Holmgren missed the Thunder last ball game, and it was, unfortunately, not part of a back-to-back. So I don't know what the hell is going on there either. I would also lean towards a benching unless we get good news today, while I also realize that might get us screwed in some capacity. You can't take a 0 if you're in your playoffs. You just can't. I hope most of you finished your playoffs yesterday, by the way. This show is for those that didn't. I finished them, managed to win the finals in that league. Only 2 cash ad leagues that I pay really close attention to. One of them got knocked out in the semis because I lost 5 guys in 1 week. Didn't even have enough moves to replace all my injured players. And then the other one, no Jalen Williams and no Tyrese Halliburton for almost the entire week, and I managed to somehow survive. I'll take it, I guess. Malik Monk is a Mirror Monday play. They play tonight. If he's out, you bench him. If he's in, you start him. Christian Brown is a name that just popped up a few minutes ago when I prepped for this show. He wasn't on the injury report yet. He is also a Mirror Monday, so at least that keeps it relatively simple and straightforward. We'll keep moving along here. We're in the 75 to 100 range. Jaylen Brown is questionable for the Celtics' next ball game, which is tonight. That's right. That's the one in Sacramento. He's a Mirror Monday also. If Brown is out, you sit him. If he's in, you play him. Love it when we can just do that. Zion is a bench for me. Already ruled out. I'm not going to worry about that. Same with Bradley Beal. Let's keep going. I want to get through the top 150 because there's some names a little deeper that are worth playing. Kelly Oubre already ruled out, so bench him. CJ McCollum is out for a rest game, but the problem is that New Orleans only has 2 other games the rest of this week. They're off for 3 days. So basically, this is 4 days off for CJ. If you're in your finals, you got to dump him. If you're in your semis, you can probably try to ride the 2-game week, but it's razor's edge kind of crap right there. Especially if there's more rest coming for McCollum. So I would lean towards a benching, or a dropping, rather. And there was someone in the 125 to 150 range I remember seeing that I wanted to talk about. I think it was Quentin Grimes. I'm not worried about Horford. There it is. There's Quentin Grimes. Obviously, he's better than this on the entire season. This is the full year rank. He's out for a rest day, but Philly has 3 more games after this, so Grimes is in for me. Aaron Gordon, another name that just popped up, also part of a 3-game week. So Mirror Monday on Aaron Gordon. D'Angelo Russell was not a guy you should be trusting in head-to-head leagues. He is out in a non-back-to-back, so shrug emoji. He probably doesn't belong on head-to-head rosters in the end. Okay, next thing on the board here, we're going to share our Super G Sheet tab. Let's go full screen on this puppy, and we'll zoom in a little bit. Whoops, that's not week 25, 23. What the hell is this? We're at week 23. I don't care what period Yahoo says it is. It's the 23rd week of the season out of 25. And I've done some color coding as per usual, and you can follow along if you click the link in the show description to Dano's Google Sheet. This is all free. We've kept it free all season long. I'm hoping to do that basically forever and ever and ever. The teams that are color-coded in sort of this like deep yellow, light brown, those are teams that have little scheduling unpleasant pockets later in the week. The green markers are guys that have early week good schedules, and the brown marker is a team that has a bad schedule today. So the way we're going to work our way through this thing is, as usual, we're going to look at the teams that have unpleasant schedule spots, and we'll try to work our way back off of them. And we'll just work our way down the board here. Atlanta has a bad schedule starting on Friday. Luckily, you don't have to worry about that for a little while, but you can see Brooklyn has a back-to-back Friday, Saturday. And again, at that point, you're looking for Friday, Saturday back-to-back, which is Brooklyn, and they're the only one, or someone that has 2 games the rest of this week and starts next week with a game on Monday if your season goes that far. If not, if you get to Friday on Atlanta, you could just pivot to anybody with 2 games left this week. Boston, their schedule turns a little sour on Thursday. Cleveland has a Thursday, Friday back-to-back. I believe there's 2. Utah is the other one. I'm trying to remember. All of this stuff is asking a lot, but Utah doesn't play again after that. So Cleveland is the direction you want to go, and they overall actually have a relatively decent schedule this week starting tomorrow. So that's where you pivot off of on Thursday. Charlotte, their schedule gets weak on I've tried to remove the teams, and you'll see this when we get to the Monday, Tuesday streaming board. The teams that play Tuesday and then are off for 2 days, I didn't bother putting really on the bad list for Monday because you probably don't want to use a move if you're not really going to gain all that much. There are a couple of teams that start the week strong, but Charlotte with 2 games the first 6 days this week, you can pivot to a team that has 4, but it better be a better player. If it's not, you might as well just wait and use that move on Wednesday and do a Wednesday through Saturday shift of some kind, like in Indiana, the Lakers. Those are 2 teams that have a Wednesday, Thursday back-to-back. I think there was one other team blended in there as well. Working our way backwards kind of towards the beginning of the week, it's actually very convenient because Atlanta was Friday, Boston was Thursday, Charlotte was Wednesday, Chicago, their schedule gets crummy on Tuesday. I think I marked the team that had a good schedule Tuesday. Yeah, it's New York. The Knicks have a good schedule Tuesday through the end of the week. They have 4 games. Indy and the Lakers all show. No, that's starting today. What did I wrote this down and now we'll get back to that at the streaming board. I'm trying to do everything out of memory right now while just looking at this sheet. And then today, the only bad schedule on Monday is the Clippers, and you would pivot to either Orlando or Dallas. Those are the 2 teams that have the best schedule going for today. If you have 4 moves this week, again, looking at where the schedules sort of get a little bit wonky, that's how you want to position them. And you also want to make sure that you're getting towards pretty good options. So my preference this week is to get off the Clippers today, get off of anybody that you can on Tuesday, because there are a bunch of teams that have bad schedule on Tuesday. You turn a 2-game rest of the week on Tuesday into a 4-gamer. And with some of those clubs, you can really load up a little early, like Minnesota and New Orleans. They've got Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday all off. They don't play for 3 straight days. So you could pick up someone and hold them through the rest of the week, or you could just make a move for those 3 days and then, ride off to some other team after that. So there's a couple ways that you can handle this week, depending on what you want to do. I think I would probably, if I was moving off of these 2 teams, Minnesota, New Orleans, I would probably just move to somebody that I was planning on holding through Sunday. But again, it does give you a little bit of flexibility. And I don't think we need to spend much more time on this part because we're going to cover it more on the streaming boards section. But let's just take a quick commercial break. Less quick. This will be a slightly longer commercial break, and then we hopefully won't have to take another one the rest of the show. Sit tight. I'll be right back. Okay, so Now we're going to get into the streaming board, provided I can actually do this at a reasonable clip. And there it is. Monday, Tuesday, March 24th and March 25th, playoff streaming guide. It's also a mid-show reminder to all of you guys to please hit that subscribe button. I've been really working my tail off here as best I can. I know that I haven't done as many Twitter recaps over the last week or two. It's mostly because I've spent a ton of late night time tweaking my teams to try to get those head-to-head teams to the finals. I'm hoping that we'll get more of those coming back. So I'm at Dan Vespers on Twitter, Old Man Squad on Blue Sky, and then the recaps these days, when I can get to them, will be in Discord, and that link is in the show description. And if you're worried, Discord, that sounds very terrifying, like chaos and entropy. It's just a chat room with a fun name or a cool name. It's a chat room. It's not that hard to figure out. Mostly because I don't do anything fancy with it because I'm an old man and a little bit of an idiot. So it's just like some rooms for the different shows on the Old Man Squad Network, and one of them is mine, and I do recaps in there. But again, hit that subscribe button. That's the big one right now, and I hope you guys will continue to watch the rest of this season and all off season long. Let's talk Monday. Today, I mentioned the Clippers as the team to avoid. They're really the one because they're off today and tomorrow. They play Wednesday. They're off again on Thursday, so it's one game out of 4 days. And you can turn the 2 off days into a game. There are teams that go back-to-back today and tomorrow. Sacramento is one I forgot to mention a second ago. Charlotte, Detroit, and Golden State all have Wednesday and Thursday off. But I think in the interest of saving your moves for all the shutdown stuff, you may want to hold on to those guys. And I don't know what players you're streaming on Charlotte, Golden State, or Detroit, but if you're streaming a Warrior, you're probably going to hold through Tuesday because if Steph misses another ball game, your Warrior streamer gets a huge bump up the board. Same story for Detroit if Cade Cunningham sits out the ball game. Charlotte, on the other hand, their streaming options are pretty much rat dookie. So if you can pivot to somebody else with a Hornet, I think I'd probably do it because you can add some games and your choices there are pretty bad. Teams to target today, Dallas, Orlando, and Sacramento. They each have the same schedule this week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. There are no heavy flow days this week, and there are no true ultralight days this week either. Wednesday is just a 6-gamer. That's the lightest day of the week. 8, we see 4 times, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. Those are the heaviest days. So you're not really ever going to have to worry about being overloaded, meaning the fact that we can find good scheduling pockets this week is also really good. This is a much easier week to stream than last week where you had a lot of weird, the teams that had good schedules had terrible streaming options and so on and so forth. If you can't find a Dallas, a Magic, or a King to pick up today, Indiana, the Lakers, and the Wizards each have the same sort of backwards schedule, which is their back-to-back is Wednesday, Thursday. So it is still 3 games in 4 nights. But you don't get that ultra fast start that you get with the 3 first teams I mentioned, Dallas, Orlando, Sacramento, those teams with the back-to-back today and tomorrow. Who should we target? I'm glad you asked. Dallas has probably the best options, although with Anthony Davis maybe coming back, does that put a tiny bit of a hole in a few of them? Yes, and that's why I've left, Kai Jones off this list. I've left Kessler Edwards off this list. Spencer Dinwiddie is probably your best streamer on Dallas, and everybody's going to be like, dude, Spencer Dinwiddie's already rostered in my league. Okay, so you can't get him. Terrific. But he got dropped in a lot of leagues because Dallas had a 2-game week last week. Max Christie is another option for some threes and steals. He's also a good free throw percent guy, even if the field goal percent has been pretty big negative lately. I'm assuming Naji Marshall, Klay Thompson, and PJ Washington are all rostered, but if they're not, those guys should be on your club the rest of the way. I think even if Anthony Davis comes back, those guys will probably still have value the rest of the way. But I reserve the right to change my opinion there on Klay and Naji Marshall. PJ Washington's going to have value no matter what happens in Dallas right now. Orlando has a couple of streaming options. You go Wendell Carter Jr. if you need boards, and he's not a bad percentages guy, but it's mostly for rebounds. He doesn't score a ton. He doesn't pass a ton. He doesn't get many defensive stats, but he's sort of a safer floor kind of big man. And then KCP would probably be the distant second choice with the Magic because he's super unreliable, but he'll probably hit you 1 to 2 threes and probably get you around a steal to, 1.2 steals per game, something like that in that back-to-back, and that'll play if those are the categories you're hunting. I don't know what's going to go on with Domantas Sabonis with Sacramento, so this list could get a little bit screwball. But with Malik Monk questionable, Keon Ellis has been a great stream. With Sabonis out, Trey Lyles has been a pretty good stream for percentages and boards. Ellis, again, Keon Ellis will get you steals whether he's off the bench or starting, but if he's starting, he's going to get you some points, some assists, some blocks as well. Jake LaRavia I put on the list, but he's really not doing anything. Even when he plays 22, 23 minutes, you're getting like 10 points and 2 rebounds, and they ain't enough to get a spot on my roster. And then again, as we mentioned, I'll scroll back up a minute. Indiana, the Lakers, the Wizards, they're the sort of backup options. I didn't write down the players there because the Pacers are getting healthy, but someone like a Benedict Mathurin, if he's healthy, he'd be a streaming option, but he probably already has been added. TJ McConnell, fringy. Lakers got their guys back, so that makes them pretty tough to stream. I think Jackson Hayes might be the only one that's kind of that fringe type player. And the Wizards do have some choices, but they keep moving guys in and out of the lineup. So it's also a little bit hard to know who the hell is going to play for Washington. I mean, Keyshawn George, I have felt should have been on rosters pretty much throughout. But then who the hell else is even going to play? Is it going to be Justin Champagnie because he disappeared? Is it going to be Bub Carrington because he's just not very good? I mean, if Keyshawn George is floating around, I don't know what the hell's going on in your league, but he's a guy that would definitely make the cut. Let's take a look at Tuesday. Teams to avoid. There are two very bad schedules, one pretty bad, and then a couple of teams that are kind of like whatever schedules. Minnesota and New Orleans, we talked about briefly during the weekly, that sort of look at the whole week part of the show. They're off Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. There's really no one on those teams that you need to hold on to outside of the main superstars. And with New Orleans, I don't even know if those guys exist anymore because Zion's hurt, Trey Murphy's out, CJ McCollum is getting a rest day on Monday. So what are we even holding on there? At least Minnesota has some star level guys. Anthony Edwards is putting up big numbers this year. The Wolves, these two teams are pretty different in that you got a Minnesota team that's playing it out, trying to get their stuff. Jaden McDaniels is putting up playing big minutes. Rudy Gobert is back and he's doing stuff. Julius Randle, I mean, I hate his fantasy game, but he's playing a ton of minutes. These are guys that you're probably trying to hang on to. Naz Reid has been good enough. But, someone like a Dante DiVincenzo, to me, he's a hard argument to hold. I know he's been good lately. And frankly, Gobert, Naz Reid, even Randall, who, a lot of punt stuff going on with Julius. But, do you need to hold on to these guys starting on Tuesday when you can find someone who plays 4 games? Do we really think that? I mean, look at the numbers lately. Naz Reid, 11.6 boards, 1.3 steals, 1 block. It's good numbers. 3 assists. 2 of those is 22, 12, and 6 with 2.5 steals and 2 blocks and 4 3-pointers. You think you can't get that out of 4 games? Someone basically needs to average 6, 4, and 2 with about 0.7 steals and half a block and a 3-pointer, and he beats him. I get it. If your league goes beyond this weekend head-to-head, you have to try to consider that side of things. But if you're just desperately need to get to the next round, almost everybody on these teams is potentially cuttable other than Anthony Edwards. Not Davis, Edwards. Chicago's schedule is not very good on Tuesday. They have 1 game through 4 days, and that game is on Thursday. Bulls are playing great offensively right now. Their players are putting up mondo numbers because of it. Josh Giddey is actually the number 1 player in fantasy basketball over the last 3 to 5 games. Kevin Huerter's top 40. Kobe White's top 40. Trey Jones was top 50 before he got hurt. Vooch is back to a top 50 clip. So, I mean, again, hard to make a call on dropping any of those guys. I think you could probably drop Huerter of those dudes and certainly Trey Jones since he's hurt for 2 weeks right now. But, none of the other Bulls were even really a question mark. You weren't going to hold on to Bazelis for a bad schedule spot. And then the rest of these guys are above streaming level anyway. And then Boston and Philadelphia each have 1 game over 4 nights, but the game is on Wednesday. So at that point, you probably just hold on to them and make your move on Thursday because you go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You can look for 3 games out of 4 nights to close out the week. That's a better way to do it. Teams to target on Tuesday. The Knicks have the only best schedule, if you want to call it that, with a Tuesday, Wednesday back-to-back. Then they play Friday, Sunday to finish out the week, so you could just hold them the rest of the way. Cleveland, not much worse, but their back-to-back is in the middle. It's the meat of the hamburger. They've got a bun game on Tuesday and a bun game on Sunday, and then they've got the back-to-back Thursday, Friday in between. Cleveland has better streaming options than the Knicks, so that might be the reason you look that direction. And then Utah has 3 games in 4 nights with a Tuesday, Thursday, Friday collection, but they don't play after Friday, so you better make sure you have a move left on Saturday if you're pivoting into the Jazz, which, again, I wouldn't recommend it unless you can't get any of these other options. And Tuesday's an important day to maximize games. This is one of the big games max days out there. Streaming options. There might be one on the Knicks, depending on what goes down here with Deuce McBride. Campaign got the fill-in start for the Knicks in their last ball game. You could probably make an argument to pick him up if we find out that McBride is out tomorrow. I certainly wouldn't do it a day in advance. That's rolling the dice too much. But even if Deuce comes back partway through the week, you could probably still sit on Payne and, hope for like 6 points and 3 or 4 assists in those other games. It's terrible. I'm not going to lie to you. But again, it's probably better than using another move. Cleveland is the place you want to go if you want safe kind of housekeeping type of streaming numbers. DeAndre Hunter, Max Strus, and Ty Jerome are the 3 guys you could look at there. I can almost guarantee one of those 3 guys is a free agent in your league, and that's the direction I would look at going on Tuesday if you're moving off of somebody with a bad schedule, because you'll get a reliable floor of something from those 3 guys 4 times the rest of the week. And with Utah, I don't even know anymore. Utah's playing their guys some of the time. They're not playing them some of the time. They've had some good competition, and that's going to continue actually Tuesday and Thursday and Friday, but there's a back-to-back in there. So I think Kyle Filipowski probably does enough over those 3 games in 4 nights, but certainly not enough to hold him after that game on Saturday. And then I felt bad about only having one name under Utah, so I put Johnny Juzang on there because over 3 games in 4 nights, he might get you 2 to 3 steals. Other than that, I don't like 3 threes, 3 to 4 threes. Don't do it. Don't do it if you don't have to. And then the other guys in Utah, they're bouncing in and out of the lineup. You can look at the Jazz recent ball games, and it's very hard to tell what the hell's going on again. Screwy bunch of teams. And nobody's playing. Everybody's resting. Guess I'll eat some worms. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow being Tuesday with a recap show of the Monday action. And we'll do a show that's not a streaming show for once, finally. See if I can wedge it in. Schedule's a little weird this week. Oh, God. Schedule's a little weird pretty much every week. Games Cap Roto Titans Unite. It's our time of year. Good luck head-to-headers. I hope your season is as safe as humanly possible because, man, silly season starts 4.5 weeks from the end of the year, and it's just ramping up. But that's why you got to hold on to moves where you can. If you can get a 2-game bump, you consider the move on a Monday or a Tuesday, but you got to hold a few Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever, because someone's going to just get ruled out for the rest of your week, and you're going to want to replace a 0 with 2 or 3 games, and that might end up being the most important thing you do. So where early in the playoffs, 2 weeks ago or whatever, I said use some moves early in the week because, silly season is coming, but it's not quite all the way here, and you just want to make sure you're maximizing. Now it kind of swims back the other way a little bit. You want to hold moves a little bit longer because everybody's going to miss games. And also, a parting thought, if you have a guy that gets ruled out early in the week, you might want to just give them one more game to see if they play because you're probably going to have more than 4 dudes ruled out due to sort of inexplicable reasons throughout this week. And if you tried to drop every player that just got ruled out, you will run out of moves by Wednesday or Thursday. You won't have enough to get you through the weekend. So, and that was what I did last week with Scottie Pippen Jr., and I feel really good about that sort of like exercising patience move. If he didn't have a good schedule, I could have made a really reasonable argument to drop him after he sat out on Monday last week. But I was like, look, if this dude's back on Wednesday or Friday, I need to save my move to do something else. And, if I still have a roster move left on Saturday, then I could move off of him because his schedule, the Grizzlies didn't play over the weekend. But like, if I dropped him after he missed the game on Monday and used up that move, I pick up somebody who plays, but then Pippen also came back and played. So you kind of have to give just a little bit of leash right now, not because we shouldn't be incredibly cutthroat. If somebody gets ruled out for 3 or 4 or 5 days or whatever, they're like, oh, reevaluate in a week. Gone. Axe them. But if it's just like this guy's out and he's questionable, you might want to give him a day and a half of wiggle to see if they come back because you're going to need all of your moves for other stuff. Don't use him up too early this week. I've made that mistake a lot of times. As it gets closer and closer to the end of the regular season, it becomes more and more important that you have moves for guys that are fully cooked for the week, midway through the week. So a move today, a move tomorrow, max. No more than 2 moves at the beginning of the week. Save 2 for the final 5 days. Final 4 days. You need to go into Thursday with 2 moves left. Unless you use one on Monday and Tuesday and you have a guy on your team that gets ruled out for the week on Wednesday, then you can go ahead and replace them. But you better go into Thursday with at least 2 moves left this week. And next week if your idiotic season goes that far. Okay, that's all. I'm Dan. Please subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk then. Toodaloo.